Okay, welcome to This Month in Our Native Gardens. Today we're going to be talking, this talk is hosted by St. Louis Wild Ones, and you can find every month this year in the St. Louis Wild Ones YouTube channel now. So this is going to be our final month. So we have January, and then through December soon. So you can look it all up and go through it all again next year if you want. And this presentation's sort of based on a book I wrote called the Wildflower Garden Planner. And you can pick up this book at a Wild Ones meeting if you want to. And this month, we're talking about December. So this month, we're going to go over frost heave, keeping plants alive in pots over the winter, talking about storm water, seed cleaning, construction projects in your yard, how not to use salt, winter fruit, gardening for owls, and we have a special guest speaker here, Brenda Hente, who's going to tell us about owls. And then we'll talk about the sensory garden, gardening in the hell strip, which is that scrap of lawn that is between the sidewalk and the street. And finish up with color in the garden this month, like usual. So here we go. So frost heave, I didn't have any good pictures of this. I don't generally like to get out my phone when there's frost on the ground because it's cold. But so it's when if you plant your plants in the fall and the roots have not gotten out of the potting soil and into the natural soil, the frost can the freezing water expands and it kind of pops the potting soil right out of the ground. It can pop your plant right out. And so besides not planting in fall, ways to prevent this is just to mulch really well around that plant. Try to incorporate natural soil into your potting soil. And then also anytime after it freezes, go walk around your yard and replant anything that you find popped out. And if they're like this third picture here, if they're just starting to come out of the soil, you probably want to dig a bigger hole and replant that because it will eventually come all the way out. And a lot of times if you find these plants, and even if they're on their sides like this and you plant them again, they survive that because it is winter and they're not doing too much growing. So if your plants are all have frost heave, don't give up on them. Just stick them back in the ground and give them some mulch. On the other hand, trying to keep a plant alive in a pot over the winter is one of the things that I really struggle with because the ground is a much warmer temperature than the air. And so when these plants are in a pot above ground, it's a lot colder experience for the plant. So sometimes I drag my pots inside. That's usually how I end up with frogs in my house because they're overwintering in the pot. Sometimes I have a yard debris pile and I just bury my pot in there. That helps keep the pot warmer. Putting your plants in the biggest pot you can find will help because that's more soil mass. Putting your pots up against your foundation. But if your pot's too big, it's hard to move. So it's kind of you got to figure out where your priorities are. And then also so say you have a tree and you know where it's going to go next year and you can dig that hole for it and then stick the tree in there with its pot and let it overwinter like that. And then in the spring, you can plant it. Like maybe if you aren't actually sure that's where it's going, but that will keep it nicely overwinter. You just have to remember to bring it out in the spring or else it will root right through the bottom of the pot and then you'll never be able to get that pot off of there. Winter time, well, all the time, is a good time to make zero storm water runoff your goal. So winter is a good time to go and make sure that all your stormwater ditches are cleared of debris and maybe they have a lot of sediment and need to be redug. Make sure your gutters are empty. Um, Clean out your rain garden. Do all those things. Just watch where the water goes and try to make its path easy to distribute nicely all over your yard. And definitely not into your basement or your neighbor's basement. Winter is also a good time to work on seed cleaning. So these photos are some of the seeds I have down in my basement right now, waiting for me to deal with them. You should probably make better labels than I do, but I was in a hurry, so I just threw these labels in there, and I remember in my, like, where they came from. I hope I'll remember. So winter's a good time to like just sit down and pick through seeds. Um, and then also get your seeds stratified if they need 3 months cold stratification. Uh, and and also right now, like the nurseries, they sell out of milkweed so quickly. And red buckeye, it was red buckeye, I think, last year that I just couldn't find. So order it now. Like tell them that in the spring you're going to want a red buckeye, and maybe they'll grow extra red buckeyes to make sure that you get one. Wintertime is also a good time to clean out your bird houses. Um, you can evict all your invasive starlings and sparrows, um, squirrels. If there's squirrel damage like this house had, you can get one of these little metal plates. I got this is from like Wild Bird Unlimited, and you can get this metal plate, and it just brings the hole in the house back to a nice size for the birds, so the squirrels can't get in there anymore. The squirrels are really destructive creatures. You can also clean your birdhouses to make sure that they don't have pests in there. Like there can be fleas and stuff in your birdhouse that from the birds. And cleaning it out, they'll have no pests living on their babies in the spring. And it's also you can build another birdhouse. Like you can never have too many birdhouses. And maybe you need an owl house or a bat house. Maybe Brenda will tell us about that owl houses. I have a birdhouse that has had a colony of bees living in it this summer, so I need to go clean that out because it's probably all full of stuff in there, not suitable for birds anymore. All right, winter time is a good time to do heavy construction, like if you need to do a patio, you need to put down pavers, because the soil is usually harder because of the frost, and also the plants aren't growing, so if you damage some leaves or branches, it's easier for the plants to recover from that. This is obviously the middle of summer. My husband doesn't usually listen to my advice, but um, he was out there working in like 100-degree weather trying to shovel this gravel around. So he should have done it in winter, like I told him to. It's a good time to clean out your shed and clean all your clay pots. Try to reuse your plastic pots. You might be able to take your plastic pots to the Wild Ones meeting and find someone else who wants them. I don't know where we can recycle plastic pots. If anybody knows like any plastic pot recycling center that's open, you can put it in the chat. I know that like Mervyn Wallace, he'll take back his pots. I think that there's another nursery that takes back their pots. It's not coming to my mind. Mervyn Wallace is Missouri Wildflower Nursery, so he takes back his pots if you bring them to him. Also, when you're cleaning your pots, make sure that you give them a nice soak in bleach or something to get rid of any jumping worms you might have be harboring and any other diseases that you don't want to give your new plants. Salt damage. A lot of times, like you don't know that you're using road salt because there's snow outside and it's damaging your plants, but you don't even know it till spring comes around, and then you're like, why did this shrub die that was next to the sidewalk? And the salt will kill the plants. It kills all the soil insects. It contaminates the soil and the groundwater and can last for years, the damage from the salt. So try not to use salt if you can. Try to have it so that your salt, if you are salting your sidewalks, that you don't want it to be running off onto your plants um, and killing that ecosystem. And so other ways to not use salt is to do more shoveling. Um, you can just sprinkle the minimum amount of salt you want. Usually the amount of salt that's going down on roads is excessive, especially homeowners. They're like, more is better, and they throw like an entire bag down. Um, if you have any salt that's left over, like right now, if there's still salt on your sidewalks, go sweep it up and throw it away, or you can use it again, but don't leave it out there. If you can switch to non-salt products, there's like beet juice. One of the things I like to use is just bird seed. Um, put down some black sunflower seed, and that helps give me the grip I need, and the birds can eat it instead of being killed by it. Try if you see big, like if you're at your school, maybe there's or your kid's school, there's big piles of salt and lots of salt all over the place. Try to talk to them about how damaging salt is to the environment and the plants, and also talk to your neighbors about it. So things you can also use ash, but I find ash, like I track it into the house and it's a big mess. So if you have designated outdoor shoes and indoor shoes, ash is fine. But I use birdseed and shovel. I get out there and shovel. Unfortunately, we live in St. Louis where we don't have very much snow anyway, so it's not as big a deal. But there was already salt on the road this year. All right, this is a quick video that Project Clear made, and I thought it was funny, and it's quick, so
I think the audio is not working.
ah, all right. No. All right, how do I get out of here now? Escape? There we go. All right, so they found that the creeks in St. Louis actually have more salt in them than the ocean in the winter. So you need to be a little bit less salt. So another thing in winter is you can put out your suet feeders. I like watching the woodpeckers come to my suet feeder. The woodpeckers are also, they find natural insects in the bark, but if you want to bring them close to your house so you can look at them, a suet feeder is an easy way to do that. You'll also probably get starlings and squirrels on your suet feeders, but I just tap the window usually and they run away. some winter fruits for birds. So one of them, so birds need fruit in the winter, obviously. They're flying, they need that uh, sugar, gives them energy. So one fruit is the beautyberry. That's the one that's pictured right here. Hollies, they also have fruit. We have three different hollies. The eastern red cedar. I know the eastern red cedar is not really a plant that you can find in the native plant trade, but you might have one naturally in your yard, and they have excellent fruit. It's that purple berry, which I think is actually not a berry. It's a fleshy cone or something, but the birds really like that. The hawthorn also has fruit, and the hackberry has nice fruit. Persimmon and viburnums. And there's more viburnums than just Lentago and prunifolium. There's a lot of viburnums to choose from. And so these all have um, fruit that stays on the tree and is still on the tree now. So birds, um, like the migrating birds, picked off the sweetest fruit, and this is more of a fattier long-term fruit for the birds that are spending the winter here. And here's some fruit. This one on the left here is the viburnum. And then on the right down here is persimmon. And then this is another fruit. This is the prickly pear cactus fruit, which I recently ate one of these, and I don't really recommend it. Maybe there's a better way to cook it, but I grilled it, and then so you like grill it and then you burn the needles off, and but it's really gooey, kind of like okra. I didn't enjoy it, but I'm glad I tried. It was an experience. I'll leave that for the birds. And they're just packed full of seeds. You can see how many seeds are in here, so it's a crunchy experience. Okay, now I'm going to hand it over to Brenda. This is a picture of my backyard owl here. He's looking at me through my kitchen window, judging me, saying I should put more bird seed in my bird feeder so he can eat my birds some more. I think that's what he was saying. All right, Brenda, do you want to, do I
Yeah,
need to stop sharing so you can share here?
that'd be great. Let's see. Okay. Can you see that?
It almost says
Uh,
you are still black, but
hmm. Let's try. Wonder why that's doing that. Let's try this. Hmm. Let's see here what's going on. Uh-oh. Are you guys still there?
yeah.
Okay, let me try it again.
Yeah, it said you were sharing your screen, but it was just black. I didn't see the picture.
Hmm. Okay, let me try it one more time. I'm not sure why it's doing that.
Does anyone have any questions at this point about the things I've gone over? I didn't see any comments about if anyone knew
Yeah.
where else to recycle pots.
Okay, you guys, can you see that now?
Yep, looks like you're all ready.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me join your meeting and talking to you a little bit about owls. I don't know how many of you have ever seen an owl in the wild, but we have four owls in the state of Missouri that are here year round. They're the great horned owl, the barred owl, the eastern screech owl, and the barn owl. And I've been studying owls for, well, since 2010 when I had two great horned owls in my backyard and they were living there for 4 months. And then I followed them to a neighboring park just about 7/10 of a mile away, and I've still been studying them there, and other owls also. So I'll just tell you a few things about what's good for owls. It's pretty much just what's basically good for any bird, but if you want to have owls in your backyard, and I've had an eastern screech owl in my backyard too. I had a maple tree, and there was a hollow in it, and so I had that back there living just off and on one winter. But create a natural environment and a healthy environment in your yard. Let native plants like flowers, shrubs, and young trees grow naturally. Keep grass long to attract the small mammals, which owls like to hunt. And I know that's people don't want to have, you know, rodents and things like that in your yard, but it really does attract the owls. So grow big trees, and they feel they need a place to feel safe while sleeping and while hunting. When owls are hunting bats, I notice a lot of times they're more successful if they lift off from a taller perch that is above where the bat is flying, and if they come down on them, they're more successful than trying to go up towards them. So having tall trees might help them be more successful in their hunts for bats. And then, of course, the larger trees and the older trees will or could have some hollows that the owls can use to nest in, because they don't build their own nest. And I don't know if you can see both the male and the female sitting here in the middle picture. So one's facing to the left, and then the other one's facing straight on. And then here's a mom with her babies, two babies there. And then these are great horned owls. And then over on the left is this was actually in the backyard in Overland. These barred owls had nested there for a few years, and this was one of their babies. They had two that year. It was really fun to see. Just right out their back door was this tree, and had the babies there. Leave your dead trees. I named my owls Will and Kate because I started watching them when Will and Kate were getting married in England. And then they were in my backyard for 4 months, and I followed them to a neighboring park. And when I first started watching them, this tree here is just a snag. And this is where Kate nested for several years until that tree completely fell down. But it provided a really good habitat. She just nested right in the top. Well, this is the top right here. But if you can leave dead trees, especially if they're not in the way of anyone, if they were to fall over any structures or all. Also, the trees that have the bigger branches provide a lot of they love the bare branches because they can see, especially at night when they're hunting. Here in the top left picture, they're just hooting at each other, which is a normal thing that they do in the evenings and all throughout the night. They hoot depending on what part of the year it is. Like right now, this time of year, they're hooting with each other because they're reestablishing that pair bond that they have for each other, even though they're mating for the long term. And then also they're hooting right now to make sure that all the little owlets that had to leave the territory are not going to come in their territory. They're hooting to say, hey, my space is open, or it's not open for you to come. But here's Kate. You can only just see her one eye there behind the tree bark, and then one of her babies peeking out. But leaving dead trees is a good thing for them. Provide shelter. A lot of times when the babies, when they fledge from the nest, if they don't make it to the next tree, or if they fall out of a tree, their natural instinct is to go to where ground cover is and to back up against a tree. Usually the next day or so, they're back up in the tree. They climb the tree using their talons and their beak and their wings. And then this picture on the top right is of Will, just sleeping in the day. They like to have some cover just to stay safe. In the winter, you'll find owls more in coniferous trees, and in the summer, you'll find them more in deciduous trees. Of course, don't use rodenticides. This is Will the First. I'm on Will the Third right now, but this is Will the First, and we're pretty sure that he was poisoned. So don't use rodenticides because secondhand poisoning kills the owls and other raptors that eat the prey. And they don't die right away. You would never see an owl laying like this unless they're injured or sick. You can provide a bird bath, especially for the eastern screech owls. They like to, and they're very quick at learning to hang around the bird baths because they know things come there to drink water. But most of the time, owls do not need to drink because they get all their liquid intake that they have from their prey. But there is a time when I saw, this was Sarah down in Forest Park, in the fall, walk down into the waterway and get a drink. And research says that they'll do that sometimes when they're getting ready to lay eggs, and she was on a nest a couple weeks later. Or if it's too hot in the summer and they just need that extra liquid. So providing a bird bath or a fountain, just like any bird, really helps them out. Offer some perch sites. So, these branches here on these trees, don't go up there and cut them down. This is what they really like, to be next to the tree trunks. So leave those branches there. If you can, leave a portion of your yard unmanicured. A lot of times the owls will go down in that section and just sit more on the ground and hunt. Also, the babies use that area. It's easier for them to hunt if we're providing the ground cover there for things to crawl around in. They can use those areas easier to hunt and learn how to hunt. And then lastly, install an owl nest box. And I think it needs to be at least 10 to 15 feet up in the tree. This is a friend of mine who was installing one. He lives in Pennsylvania, and then a farmer installed this barn owl nest box on the side of a barn. But yeah, they could use all the help we can get. Great horned owls are it's mating season for them right now. And then about a month later, well, they should be on their nest by the end of January in our part of the country. And then after that, the barred owls will nest next. So they get the second pick of all the nest boxes. And then after that, the eastern screech owls, and then the barn owls. So right now, we're gearing up for the great horned owls to start nesting. So having a nest box, will help. You might not get an owl in there for a few years, but it's worth the try. So, and then I put in the last slide here. How do owls benefit gardens? Owls take care of your rodent population, which promotes garden growth. And that's all. That's my presentation, Besa.
Thank you. Are there different boxes for different owls?
There are different boxes. You can go on World Bird Sanctuary's website, and they have some nest box plans and all that you can look up.
I thought about, I don't have any owl nest boxes because you have to get them so far up in that tree. And
Right.
I'm
And then,
afraid to climb that high.
yeah, if you do install a nest box, think about which way the weather comes in. Like, I wouldn't face it towards the west. Like a lot of our winter storms, or the north, or think about which way the sun's going to hit that box, because that'll help also to face it towards the sun.
It's similar with bat boxes. You have to put them on the correct side of the tree too.
Yeah. Okay, so now do I need to stop sharing?
No, you're good.
I'm good.
But Teresa says, have you ever seen an owlet climb a tree?
I have. I gotta get back to you guys here, sorry. I have seen an owlet a few times climb a tree, and so usually what happens is well, they're awake at night. I mean, most owls are active when we're not. And that's why a lot of people haven't ever seen an owl. They're also well camouflaged, and they have silent flight. And usually when they leave the nest, they do this at night, and they just take that leap of faith, and sometimes they don't make it to the next tree branch and end up on the ground, and then they run across the ground. And they may try right away to get up in a tree, but usually they're just running around having a good old time for that evening. And then the next morning, they're like, now what am I going to do? I'm not up in a tree and it's daylight. You know, if I could interpret what I think an owl is thinking. Um, but then, so usually when I know that they're nesting, especially Will and Kate's babies, I've watched them have 23 babies over the past 14 years. Um, they they will just try. It's very hard work for them. They get tired out, and a lot of times they don't even make it to that first branch, and they fall back down. They have to sit there for a little while and regain their strength. But they eventually make it, you know, unless a predator comes by or a human comes by and thinks that they need to help it. You know, just if it's there the next day, if you see it one day and it's still in that same place the next day, then call World Bird Sanctuary. Otherwise, just leave it alone. And you know, it's just gaining strength to get back up in the tree.
I love it, the World Bird Sanctuary, when they fly the owls over your head. That's so cool because you can't hear them at all.
Right. Mm-mm.
So I got more questions coming in the chat here.
Okay.
Um, how did you follow your owls from your backyard to the park?
So I'll try to make this brief. So I knew when they would come in my backyard to roost in the morning. If I was out there by 6 a.m., they were going to fly in and I'd watch them fly in and roost. When I came home from work, I'd watch them wake up and go and fly out to go hunt. And then, but usually every morning they were back in my tree. And so this went on for 4 months. And then eventually they started not coming back every morning. And where are they at? You know, what are you guys doing now? And then the next day they'd be back. And so they'd, you know, vary what they were doing. And then eventually they were not coming back. And with great horned owls, you can tell, well, the male and the female apart, the male has 4 to 6 notes in their hoot. So it might be hoo, 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 hoo. That's a male, and the female could have 7 to 11 notes and respond. So it might be hoo, 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 hoo. And that would be shorter notes the female has. And just like you and I, you know, if like my sister from me, my mom might be able to tell, well, this is Brenda calling me. This isn't my sister calling her. We have different vocalizations. And so you can learn the patterns of different great horned owls and know that that's their voice. And also because I watched them for 4 months, I not only recognizing their voice, their hoot pattern, I also knew by their colorations and their markings. And so when I would see them go out for the night, because I didn't know if they were going to be coming back the next day or not, I would start following them through the neighborhood. And yes, I was that crazy bird person that would get in my car and drive around and watch and look and see where they were. As I'd hear them hoot over there, I'd go drive over there, or I'd walk over there, but I can't cut through yards, so I had to use my car. And then I kept noticing they were going in one direction, one direction, one direction every night. And I'm like, you know, there's a park really close by here. I wonder if they're going there. And so I went to the park and I found them there. And so they had taken up residency in the park, and then that's eventually where they stayed. So
You need to clear out some honeysuckle at that park, I think.
We have one more question. Penny says, my experience is that owls fly away as soon as they realize I'm looking at them. How do you observe them?
well, you have to move slowly. I mean, I did this my first year of watching owls, I was very cautious. I would give them a great big distance until I learned how to read their facial expressions. If you're moving fast and making a lot of noise and just coming up on them suddenly, they're going to fly. They're not going to stick around. And also, it depends on I think it depends on the age of the owl and the experiences that the owls have had already. Like babies, you can tell a baby from an adult because they're usually bobbing their head. They're wanting to find out as much information about what's there as they can. And when another bird will come and mob an owl, the babies can't take it. They'll leave right away. But the adults are just like, it's okay. I'll just come back and get you later when you're in your nest tonight. And so like you can tell differences just like that, but the babies probably would not stick around as much, or an adult may not stick around if you're watching them. If they have prey, they want to guard their prey, or, there's lots of different possibilities, but you just have to go slow, go quiet, and observe with binoculars. And if you're going to take photos of long distance lenses. And I think over all the years, like, I think the owls know that I'm not a threat to them because I don't get in their face all the time. I'm not, when I go watch them, nowadays I just go and check in on them and then leave. I don't stay like for a couple hours like I used to. Um, I just kind of go, yep, they're still in that tree, or they're using this tree tonight. And I just make a mental note of what their behaviors are for that evening.
Yeah. I guess Mark Glenshaw's owls must be very tolerant of people watching them.
Well, Charles has gone through a few different females, but yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of different. I mean, when I look at neighborhood owls, there's a lot more obstacles than living in Forest Park. They've got the cream of the crop down there, I mean, of course, you still have to worry about cars because they like to fly low across the streets, but they have all the habitat that they need down there.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing with us your expertise in owls, and hopefully we'll all be able to attract more owls to our backyards
So, yeah.
next year.
And my tree that they were first in was covered in ivy. And it took me 2 weeks to find them, and I knew they were back there, and I just didn't know. But when I finally looked up in the right spot, all I saw was their facial disc. The rest of their body was ensconced in ivy.
Yeah.
So they really like that cover. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Mhm.
All right. You guys can see my screen again. We're back to my backyard owl. I don't think my owl lives in my yard. He just comes by he watches my bird feeder. I think it's like television for him or her. I don't know how to tell. But there's a bird bubbler there and a bird feeder. So I think those are both quite interesting to look at if you're an owl. Okay, I've got a participatory section here. So we're going to talk about the sensory garden. And so I want you guys to all open up your chat here. And I want you to write in the chat what your favorite taste in the garden. And if you're not tasting your garden, you're missing out. So say something like you really like to eat blackberries or service berries, or chew on the bee balm leaves, lick an oak tree. I don't know what you guys do. If your favorite taste is a ladybug after it flies in your mouth, that taste is not good, I don't think either. All right. We're going to go through these quickly. So you can start thinking about your favorite smell in the garden, and Teresa's going to read out what our favorite tastes in the garden are. Oops.
Okay, so far we only have 4 responses. We have lemon balm. Oh, 5. Service berries. Barb says N and blueberries. I'm not sure what the N is. So Barb, if you want to write that again, we'd love to see that. Then we have Penny calamint, jade pawpaw. And Barb's going to let us know her other thing here in a moment. Marcia says the mountain mint.
Yeah. Yeah, the mints I like tasting the mints. Yeah, the fruit.
Okay, I think
Apparently
Barb's N was just a typo.
Apparently you can lick the ants too, but you got to be careful. But they have a flavor. You guys. All right, so favorite smell in the garden. What do you like to go sniff?
Oh,
And you're not allowed to write the same thing twice. So if you already used up your mint, you got to come up with something else. Like maybe your favorite smell is the seeds on prairie drop seed.
Mhm. And that is what Penny wrote, prairie drop seeds. I have not smelled those yet. Barb says phlox.
Yeah.
Jana says soil.
I
Marcia
like
enjoys,
soil. It's good.
right? Marcia enjoys clove currant. And then we
Mhm.
have another, Susan also says prairie drop seed. And I put bee balm on a hot day.
Yeah. Those are all
Oh, and we have
good.
one more. Laura says calamint.
All right. Calvin's hitting two categories there. Favorite thing to touch in the garden? I'm gonna say I really like touching musselwood. I think that might be my favorite thing to touch. I also like moss. Moss is fun to touch.
Mm.
I don't like rose bushes. I had a tangle with a rose bush earlier today when I was out pruning.
Okay, we have our first response. Penny says leaves of grasses like prairie drop seed and woolly grass. Susan says the fuzzy leaves of robin's plantain. Oh, here we go. Laura says side oat grandma seeds, pulling them from the stem.
Yeah,
That's true. River oats. I'm gonna make that my answer is river oats. Same thing, pulling them off the stem.
yeah. Beet grain is also fun to pull off the stem to collect. Okay, let's go with favorite sound in the garden. Then it can't be generic, like a bird. You'll say, be specific here. I think I really like cicadas, but not when they're like deafening, like regular cicadas, not like the ones we had recently.
Mhm. We have Susan says bluebirds and owls. Penny says song sparrow. Jade says owls and chipmunks.
Or chipmunks.
I'm gonna say barred owls at night. They
Yeah,
sound like monkeys in the trees.
yeah. What about a whippoorwill? I don't have that in my own yard, but that is a wonderful sound.
I had one above my camping site once at
Yeah,
3 in the morning.
yeah, they're hard to sleep with. Okay, your favorite site in the garden. So today I had the experience of accidentally digging up a hibernating toad. That was an exciting sight. I had to bury him again. I was also enjoying recently the sight of snow melting on living parts of plants, how it melts faster than on the dead
Oh,
parts of the plants.
yeah. Okay, we've got some good answers. Okay, so Susan says plants emerging from the soil in the early spring. Barb says birds at the pond. Jana says bumblebees on Turtle Head. I say new volunteer native plants. That surprised me. Marcia says bluebells in early winter. And then Laura says combo of monarchs and liatrus colors. And Penny says whatever is in bloom.
So, Marcia, you have bluebells blooming in the winter?
I meant early spring.
Oh, okay. Not right now. Those are some confused bluebells right now. All right, guys, thanks for playing along here. But wintertime's a good time to think about your senses in the garden because everything seems sharper, I think, in the winter with like maybe it's simpler so it's easy to figure out like what that noise is or what that smell is. I'm sure. Okay, gardening in the Hell Strip. So on the right there are my two favorite Hell Strip plants. So Hell Strip is that area between the sidewalk and the street where all the plants are exposed to road salt, to a lot of heat, to either not being watered or having lots of rainwater shunted onto them. There's usually a lot of soil compaction because people are stepping on it, getting in and out of their cars, or they don't know how to drive and are driving on it. So it's a really horrible, hellish strip of garden. So it's really tough. And so the things that I found that are really nice are the Pennsylvania sedge. That's one of the sedges that's the most salt and compaction tolerant sedges. And then also the wild strawberry is really good for that area. It seems to tolerate being stood on just fine. If one plant dies, the runners come in and just fill in there. Um, so I recommend trying those if you are having trouble with your health strip area. Um, and people keep stepping on your plants. Those are two very hardy plants. If anyone has any other suggestions, you can put those in the chat too. Those are both for sun also. So if there's a shady hell strip, they might not work so well. Coming up soon here is on December 14th through January 5th is the Christmas bird count. And it's an event that the Audubon Society puts out, and they have these groups that go out to different birding areas and just count how many birds they see and identify them. And they're trying to get this look at what bird populations are right now. And you've probably heard that our bird populations are declining. So doing these citizen science projects and volunteering to help with that is very important to keep on track of what's going on in the world around us and maybe figuring out how best to respond to bird declines, or maybe find out if something we're doing is actually working. And you can find that on the Audubon Society website. So color in the garden this month. So we've got these aromatic asters are still blooming. They look a little droopy from the freezing, but they're still going strong there. And I have a picture on the right here is my aromatic aster with the snow on them. They're still trying to bloom. There was snow, and I went and checked on them today, and they still are blooming. On the left is gray-headed coneflower that's still blooming also. Looks a little sad, but it's still holding on to its petals there. And we got some other yellow that's coming up. Actually, I've seen a couple of them blooming already, but this is witch hazel here. And that's a winter bloomer. So warm winter days, keep your eye out and your nose out for witch hazel. This is another color smell for the garden. Last month I asked you how many shades of brown you have in your garden. Does anybody have a number? Anybody do their homework with a number? You probably all forgot. You were busy eating turkeys and hanging out with your families. I didn't count mine either, though. So, but millions. I think there's millions of shades of brown in my garden right now. So here's some of my brown. I got this like tan green combo here. And this one on the left is the beet green grass. And then on the right is more tan green. That's the shining blue star. And I really like the way the beet green grass looks when it turns this brown. It's the ember waves of green right there. I have this red color in my garden. The red is the little blue stem. And also the red on the left is the wild strawberry. And then I have this, I guess it's like a tan black combo. This reminds me of like a beer, like a dark stout beer with a foamy top here. With the dark brown and the light brown. I think they look really nice together. So on the left is the purple coneflower, and then in the background is that annual, I think that's Cufea, the waxweed. And then on the right is my wild plum, Mexican plum tree, which are really cool just for their bark. All right, do you guys have any New Year's resolutions for your garden or 2025 garden plans that you want to share right now in our last 5 minutes? Or also any questions if anybody has questions now. I know for me, I'm going to be
We do
working
have
on
one
a tree in my garden. Do you have a tree? Do you have a question?
Marcia has a question. She's wondering what you think of for the health strip, the anemone canadensis.
Yeah, that one would probably work in a like not a full sun environment, maybe shade. That was where my mind went for that too. Was an anemone canadensis is also a good plant to use when it's surrounded by asphalt, so it can't escape and invade the rest of your yard. And that's also a good thing to do with wild strawberry too, is to keep it surrounded by asphalt if you don't want it to invade the rest of your yard.
More the merrier. Laura has a New Year's resolution for her garden, and that is installing a bubbler.
Yeah. And then you can get some owls to watch it.
And
Is
I know
anybody
mine,
going to build an owl house now, an owl box?
I thought of doing that. That's a good
Yeah.
idea. My resolution is finding a way to plant Jerusalem artichoke in my yard without it overtaking or escaping whatever small area I decide to give it. I don't know if it's possible, but it's my hope.
You know, so I've grown Jerusalem artichoke twice now, and I have eaten it to death both times.
Okay.
Like, that plant is so delicious. I just dig it. Well, I think, it's an aggressive plant, and I'm like, I can eat as much as I want, and then after like 3 years, it's gone. I'm like, oh, what happened? I need to start over.
Nice. That's why I want to plant it as well. I've heard it's very tasty.
Yeah, it is delicious. I was trying to make the first time I cooked with it. So we're eating the tuber for you guys who haven't eaten this before. So it's like a potato, but the tubers are very twisty, so you have to do a lot of scrubbing to get all the mud out of all the crannies. And then I just sliced mine up into rounds and baked it like potato chip style. And I was going to cook it into like a casserole, like a potato cheese casserole, but it didn't make it that far. I ate it all straight out of the oven, and it was so good.
Nice. Now I'm even more interested in planting that. There has to be more. I'm not seeing any more resolutions. Maybe they're taking a while to type.
Yeah, It could be very in-depth resolutions. Hey, Penny, what's your resolution and how many bluebirds you're going to fledge next year?
It's totally up to them. All I can do is provide the habitat.
Are you adding any more boxes or you're maxed out on boxes?
I don't think my yard's big enough to accommodate 2 pair. I tried a box out in the cemetery last year, but and they did lay 1 egg and then abandon it, but I think it was just too far away from food and water.
And too many ghosts out there.
They got spooked.
Oh,
Yeah.
We have 2 more resolutions. Barb hopes to get more than 3 pawpaws. Good one. And then Susan does not make New Year's resolutions because they are too easy to break.
Yep. Well, so as I was saying earlier, I'm going to make a treehouse in my yard this year. That's my New Year's resolution. But I've been wanting to make this treehouse for like 2 years now, and it hasn't happened. So I might break it. But
That sounds
least I-
ambitious.
yeah. Well, I can do ambitious things.
What will you have in your treehouse, Besa? Just place to sit?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
bird's eye view of my garden is what I'll have. I could sit up there and watch. Maybe I'll see a mouse crawling around my yard or a rabbit or something. I could read a book up there.
You could keep a pair of binoculars up there.
Yep. I can go up there and pout if I need to or something like that. All right. I want to thank you all for going along on this monthly series with me and for Marcia for talking me into it and Laura and Teresa for agreeing to help me out. I really appreciate that you agreed to that without me even telling you too much about it. You're like, yeah, sure, I'll help you with whatever. And this has been a great experience for me, and I'm glad that all these videos will be on YouTube for people to watch in the future.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Besa.
Besa.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
Thank
really
you for
good.
coming in on the chat too.
We'll continue next year to each month in our read all about it and various and probably Facebook page. We'll continue next year to point people to each month of recorded sessions. Remind folks to tune in because it's all still going to be really appropriate and helpful each month next year.
Yeah. All right. This was awesome, you guys. And I hope you guys have a happy rest of December and all of its festivals. And I'll see you guys at the next Wild Ones meeting.
See you in January.
More.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Besa. Bye.